Now that Ghostbusters Afterlife has been out for a few weeks and I've seen it several times, let's review the Ghostbusters Afterlife Plasma Series figures. Hello everybody and welcome to Geek Dad Life. It's your host, Jay Glatfelter here. So I have enjoyed reviewing all of the merchandise released to promote Ghostbusters Afterlife and intend to review more. So if you like this video and want me to do more like it, hit that like button. And if you want to see when those episodes drop, click the subscribe button and that bell icon. So this review will talk about the movie, and some of these figures do reveal plot points, and one of the sets reveals a major plot point. Huge spoiler warning, if you have not seen the film yet, please wait until you've seen the film before watching this review. First released in 2020, the Ghostbusters Plasma Series is Hasbro's toy line aimed to adult collectors with better articulation, face sculpts, and paint applications. The first wave of figures and Comic-Con exclusive set were geared to just the 1984 film. It gave us all of the core four Ghostbusters, Dana Barrett, Louis Tully, Gozer, and two Terror Dogs, but they were both Vince Clortho. And this year we saw our first figures that directly tied into Ghostbusters Afterlife with a set of the living Ghostbusters with much more gray hair, as well as 3 of the 4 main kids in the film. I say 3 of the 4 because we had promotional pictures of Phoebe, but we didn't actually get one, and it was kind of this mystery like, oh, she must be packed with something that's a big spoiler. Well, that turned out to be true. So like just about every other release that they've done so far from Hasbro, I bought up all of the Ghostbusters Afterlife Plasma Series figures, but I felt like without Phoebe and possibly without seeing the movie, I didn't want to actually open them up and review them just yet. And now that I've seen it several times and that I've gotten the last 2-pack that gave us Phoebe, as well as an incredibly important character in the film, I felt like it was time to open all of these things up and review them on the channel. The packaging carries over what we've seen already, albeit a little bit different. It's a little bit darker and a little more worn out than we saw on the previous releases in Wave 1. But the same idea, you have the flight suit with the patches as well as the patch version of the Ghostbuster logo. We do have the added caution tape towards the top. And then of course we have the different 6 figures in this wave that allow you to build a Sentinel Terror Dog, even though it kind of showed up in the film, but not really. So it must have been cut from the film. So at some point, this must have been a more major character than we ended up getting in the movie. I also love that they carried over this awesome side artwork. And so we have the 4 main kid Ghostbusters. We have Lucky, Podcast, Phoebe, and Trevor. So not too much of note here on this packaging. It's nice. It's slightly different to accommodate for the Ghostbusters Afterlife characters, but it's just that it's packaging and I'm an opener. But I will say the Ghostbusters 2-pack, however, the family that busts together, while it's very similar, has some really nice features that I just absolutely adore. One of those is the side artwork with Phoebe as well as the ghost Egon, and the very back has the 2 figures posed to kind of recreate that very emotional climax to the film. And so I really dig what they added to this 2-pack. Moving on to the figures themselves, this wave of Plasma Series covers both the original Ghostbusters as well as the kids that have picked up the mantle, and overall does a good job of representing both the original Ghostbusters look the part. They have much more gray hair, maybe a little bit more round in the middle, but overall they look really good. It was a bit of a spoiler when they were first introduced, but I think we all assumed that the living members of the Ghostbuster crew would be showing up in the film. And while they weren't in it much, the appearance they did have, I thought was fantastic. And these figures represent that scene where they kind of take on Gozer for the second time. And while they are much older, they still had all of the same quippiness and fun jokes that we saw from them in the first 2 films. And now, having seen the film, I think these figures are a pretty good likeness of what we ended up getting in the movie. And while the head sculpts are pretty darn good, Bill Murray seems to still be the one they have a tough time nailing. It looks like Bill Murray, or a Murray brother, maybe more Brian Dole Murray than Bill Murray, but still, it looks pretty good. It's just not the best out of the 3 figures. I think the Ray stance is pretty darn good. It definitely has the likeness of Dan Aykroyd, with a little more salt and pepper in the hair. But the one that actually ends up looking the best is Winston. It definitely looks like a great representation of Ernie Hudson's portrayal of the character in the film. You know, they're pretty similar to what we already got last year with the first wave of figures, but I will say some things they changed on them from the original ones. I like the actual look of the flight suit. You know, in the film, they're more worn out. But really, if I had one major criticism for the first wave of figures, one, the elbow pads were not accurate, and then the actual flight suit was just way too clean looking. There's a bit more tan, a little bit more gray added to it, and I think they really nailed the color on these releases. Another cool thing in terms of accessories for the OG GBs is they all got a Neutrona stream, which is great. In the original or Wave 1 set that we got last year, only Winston got a Neutrona beam to attach to the proton pack, so I think that is great. Other than that, there's a lot of cardboard accessories, which I thought was kind of meh. Winston got, you know, the classifieds that he, you know, presumably found the ad to apply for the Ghostbusters position, but it's only on this one side. There's nothing on the other side. It is literally just a piece of cardboard paper, and it looks really silly if he is holding this newspaper. It looks really, really big if he's holding it. So it's this one's kind of silly. It's better than nothing, I guess, but this one, I feel bad for Winston. Peter Venkman also got cardboard. I guess you could say it's a bit more related to the first film, and it is in the post-credit scene as well. But it's these, you know, cards that he's using to kind of test people's psychic ability, or ESP ability. And but again, it's just little pieces of cardboard. There's no backing on them, and God, they're going to get lost. So I probably already lost a few of them since I opened these a few months ago. Ray has the best accessory though. He has Tobin's spirit guide, and it's not made out of cardboard. It is an actual, like, real piece of plastic, even though it doesn't actually open up or anything, but it's still cool that we got finally a Tobin spirit guide to go along with our figures. So pumped to get that. The next generation kids that round out this 6-figure wave are fantastic. I think it's great that they kind of had a great passing of the torch in Ghostbusters Afterlife, and now having seen the film, I'm really pumped that I have these figures. Starting with my family's favorite podcast, he's a great representation of the character that we saw in the last act of the film, where he donned a flight suit and even fashioned his own podcast name tag, which was really funny to see in the film. So it's neat that it's here on the figure. His accessories are great. He has the most mini puffs, which again lines up to what we saw in the last act, even though it's not as extreme as what happened to him in the last act of the film. Phoebe is the one that came with the PKE meter that's in the taser mode. But if you've seen the end of the film, I think that accessory definitely should go with podcasts, and that's how I kind of have him now, you know, somewhat recreating the final scene in the film. I also love that he comes with the ecto goggles with the Polaroid. He also comes with the Aztec death whistle. I also think that Podcast has the best likeness in the head sculpt. This definitely looks like Logan Kim that we saw in the film. So I out of all of them, I think this one looks the most like the character that we saw on screen. Podcast also comes with the RC controller for the RTV Ghost Trap. And speaking of that Ghost Trap, it's actually packaged with Lucky, who, unlike Podcast, does not have a great likeness in her head sculpt. Again, I loved Celeste O'Connor's portrayal of the character in the film, and it's kind of a shame that I think her head sculpt is a little bit soft. It doesn't quite nail the features of the character that we saw in the movie. It still looks okay, but in terms of what they've been able to do recently with their photorealistic head sculpts, I think this one definitely comes up a little short. But overall, though, I still think it's a solid figure. She is the only one that comes with a Neutrona stream. She also comes with a full-size proton pack to go along with that proton stream, so it's great that she got this. Again, she had a really cool moment in the film utilizing that full proton pack against Gozer, so I really like what they did with the figure. I just wish the head sculpt was a little bit better. The Finn Wolfhard figure is okay. I don't know if it's just because we've already gotten Finn Wolfhard as a Ghostbuster figure already in McFarlane's Stranger Things toy line. But overall, I think his head sculpt, again, just it's not quite 100% there for me. But he does have, the full jumpsuit as well as a full proton pack, which he didn't quite use in the film. He was in the gunner seat, and that was his real use of a Neutrino Wand and proton pack. But he does come with a fun mini puff attachment, which again kind of connects to his moment in the film where he was trying to blast and activate the big farm trap, but the mini puffs got in the way and needed a podcast to kind of save the day for him there. So I like what this one comes with, but given the fact that it just isn't quite exactly his appearance that we got in the film, and the head sculpt being a little bit soft, it's not my favorite out of all of the Kid GBs. And then closing out with the Family That Busts Together 2-pack and going with Phoebe, I think it's a really great figure. I mean, just all of the accessories that you get in the pack. You also get the Spangler Neutrino Wand as well as Proton Pack, and it's kind of our little tease while we wait a year and a half for the full 1/1 scale Spangler's Proton Pack. But it does kind of feature, the ability to take off the cyclotron cap and look inside like we'll get on that full scale one. And then the actual Spangler's Neutrino Wand as well features the wood handle as well as a little tape on the back handle. So, overall, I think this figure is pretty darn good. The head sculpt is okay. Again, it's not 100% perfect. I don't immediately see McKenna Grace here, but I think with the glasses and the hair and everything like that, I think it looks pretty good. And again, I think the accessory of the Spangler Proton Pack is a nice bonus as well. And then last but not least is the Spangler Ghost himself, Egon's ghost. And when they first showed us the promotional pictures for this figure, I thought the head sculpt looked absolutely terrible. And I'm so thankful that in hand it looks fantastic. Like, it really does. And I'm not just kind of overstating this. I'm glad that it's actually translucent plastic that they painted over. And it actually, the details and everything appear a lot better in hand than what we saw in those promotional pics. The paint on the beard just looked really muddled and just didn't look right, but in hand it does look pretty darn good. And when you're setting this thing up to kind of recreate that very emotional climax in the film where Phoebe is trying to take down Gozer or ensnare Gozer, and she has the support there of her ghost grandfather, Egon. It is such a powerful scene, and you're able to recreate it pretty well with these two figures. It makes me absolutely adore this 2-pack. And then if we bring back in those original GBs, we can kind of also recreate the scene where they see Egon and they have tears. I had tears in the theater, so I just absolutely love that this last 2-pack brings it all home with giving us Phoebe as well as the ghost Egon Spangler, and it just allows for so much display ability for this movie that I absolutely adored. So if you love this movie, I think all 6 of these figures plus the 2 that we get in this 2-pack, so that's 8 figures, are must-buys if you are a Ghostbusters fan, especially a fan of this new movie. Wrapping up some loose ends, the 2-pack comes with the Zool head. We didn't get that on the original one, and we're getting it here. And while I am so excited that we finally got it, it doesn't quite look right when you put it on one of the Terror Dogs that we already got last year. It looks okay, but just, I don't know, maybe it's just the deception of the smaller horns, but it just looks a little too small on that body. Let me know down in the comment section below what you think there. And then the other Terror Dog is the Sentinel Terror Dog that was the Build-A-Figure with the first 6 figures of the wave, and I absolutely hate this thing. It doesn't stand upright. It's sculpted legs, so there's not really articulation in them, and they're just sculpted in a horrible way that makes it fall over all the time. So I think the head sculpt's great. I love the articulated jaw, and I think the arms look pretty good. I love that it has translucent into solid plastic on the top, but it's like an old school Playmates Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles toy where it just won't stand up because it's sculpted in such a weird way with its legs. It just doesn't look right. So, we didn't really see the character too much in the film, and this Build-A-Figure really disappoints for what could have been a really cool character. But overall, I really love all of the figures that they released in Ghostbusters Plasma series for Ghostbusters Afterlife. Again, I think your mileage might vary in terms of if you like the movie or not. I love the movie, so I really dig having these figures. Most of these coming out before the movie, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Excited always to have more Ghostbusters stuff, but I'm not connected to it too much yet. But now that I've seen the film, I absolutely love every single one of these figures, and I'm really excited to have them. So it should be no surprise that all of the Ghostbusters Afterlife wave of Plasma series figures get the Geek Dad Life buy rating. Definitely check out some of my other videos on this channel, like this one that YouTube wants you to check out, and one of my more recent videos. And until next time, hasta luego, and goodbye.